Previously on the dataFactory.
The basics of database and SQL Server. Types of databases. Let's have a look inside a typical SQL Server. So with that, the installation is complete. So your default instance is used generally for production purposes. The authorization So any server name that we create on Azure is essentially appended at the end with .database.windows.net. Allow it to listen to incoming requests for the SQL Server resources that sits in our systems. Hello everyone, welcome to a new session of SQL Server and t-sql. So previously we had covered SSMS installation. How do we connect the two instances that we had installed in our systems, as well as the online server, also few firewall configurations that we had to do as part of the process. Now in this episode, what we will cover is how to create databases, tables, how do we store data in tables, and how do we report or verify or query data from tables. So basically reporting data from tables, verifying and querying. These three means the same. It's just ways of describing of whatever selections of data that we need to do from tables. This is again a very crude depiction of what is happening within an instance. So this is, consider this as our system, right? Within the system we have SQL Server and we have the SSMS, that is SQL Server Management Studio. So through SQL Server Management Studio, what we do is we authenticate and we connect, or rather establish a connection to the SQL Server instance. And obviously there can be multiple instances. Here in this example, we are just taking one instance to describe what is happening within the SQL Server. So within the SQL Server, we have just brought up the database engine part. We are no more concerned with the MSBI, etc. Let's keep things simpler and delve deeper into the database engine. So within the database engine, we have databases. Precisely, we know we can have up to 32,767 databases, and we can have up to 50 named instances and one default instance. So within a database, so let's zoom in into one of the database. So within a database, we can have unlimited number of tables. Now it comes with a caveat, not exactly unlimited, but whenever we see, okay fine, we can have 2 billion tables in a database, it's kind of unlimited per se. And considering with each data, each table to have up to 1024 columns. So let's just, for explanation or rather understanding, we assume, okay fine, we can have n number of tables within a database, and a table is essentially an arrangement of rows and columns like we have in Excel. Now if we work backwards, right, so what do we have? We have rows, we have columns. So each column is a field within the table. So rows and columns all make up the table. Multiple tables, numerous tables can be contained within a database, and we can have multiple databases, and there can be multiple databases within an instance of a SQL Server, and we can have multiple SQL Server connections established via SQL Server Management Studio. So that was it. Let's move to the next topic. So again, let's touch upon SQL and t-sql. So SQL is a standard language for storing, manipulating and retrieving data from relational databases. Now, collection of tables, when they are related to each other, rather we can establish relations within different tables. Hence we use the word relational here. t-sql, Transact SQL, is a type of SQL language exclusively used for communication with databases stored in Microsoft SQL Server. Now, as we had already seen or rather discussed, right, t-sql is a brand of Microsoft. Now, simply put, SQL is a query language used to what have we written here? Storing, manipulating, and retrieving data, right, from a database. Correct. Now, t-sql is the same, a language that has been developed over and above the SQL standard. And t-sql is used to query, store, manage data and query data from database that is there inside a SQL Server instance. Similarly, databases can be there in different across different service providers. So the one that is created and maintained in the software that is provided by Oracle, when we query that database in an Oracle, we use the language called PL SQL. Database in MySQL, similarly the language is MySQL. Similarly, there are different databases, so on and so forth. Now let's cover what are the types of SQL statements. In broader connotation, there are two types. Okay, one is DDL, data definition language. Okay, and the second one is DML, data manipulation language. So data definition language is essentially, if you consider the structure, the container, or say the glass which holds the water, right? It's a container. What is data manipulation? Data manipulation is the content or the data within the container or the water. So basically you pour in water, you take out water. So that is you're manipulating the contents within the glass, right? Now what kind of statements are there in DDL or data definition language? We have create, alter and drop. So create is used to define new databases and tables. Okay. Alter, it is used to modify the structure of existing databases and tables. Example, it can be as simple as increasing the size of a database by adding new columns to the tables. Okay. Now the third statement that is used in DDL is drop. It is essentially used to remove existing databases and tables. Coming to the second type of language, that is data manipulation, we use insert, update and delete. So once we have the database and we have the table, right, we have essentially readied the container, and within the container now let's add data, right? So whenever we add data, we use insert. It's essentially to store data into the tables. Update, given that there is already data present, in order for us, if we need to update the data within the table, we need to use update statement. Delete is essentially used to remove the existing data in tables. Okay. Now there's a third statement. It's a totally a different category. I have put it like that. This is essentially used mostly to query or report data from the tables, right? It also seldom used for creating tables and inserting data, which we will cover later on. I mean, it helps in creating tables. Okay, it's like create table as select ... But yeah, anyways, we will cover that later. In also in later sessions, we will dive into the SQL command types like transaction control language and data control languages. So TCL or transaction control language is used for managing your transactions that is happening in the database. Data control language is essentially used to define roles, permissions, referential integrity, but that is for a later session. Now let's move to the next topic, creating database.